Let's start with the most basic thing that everyone needs to know. Anybody planning on retiring? Nobody's going to retire? You are. Great. At what age do you want to retire? You don't know. Anybody got a target? 55. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah. I got to tell you, I'm 47. I wanted to retire at 55. And now I'm like, yeah. Yeah, because I became a teacher. So, you know, it ain't going to happen. Okay, so remember 55 for a minute. How much is it going to take for you to retire at 55? What do you think? How much money do you need to have so that you can simply live off the interest? Because the day you retire, you want to pull back all those investments so that you're guaranteed to make money and not lose money, right? Anybody heard of the last recession we had? What happened to people's investment funds in the last recession? Tanked. If it wasn't for my financial advisor 3 months before that hit, pulling me into a ton of cash, instead of only losing 40% of my entire investment portfolio, I could have lost 80%. Because I was in funds that went from hundreds of dollars to $0. So how much do you think you need? $1 million. Let's just go with $1 million. Let's see what happens. So here's what amount needed to retire. We want to hit $1 million. Okay, now I'm going to format these as numbers. I'm going to get rid of the decimal places because we're going to use all, and I'm going to format it as accounting. Now, we'll talk about the difference between accounting and currency, but folks, use accounting. Here's why. This is the accounting format. This is the currency format. What do you see? There's only one difference. What's the difference? Where are the dollar signs placed? If we're dealing with 100 million rows of data and we put this dollar sign right next to our actual numbers, what might the dollar sign be confused as? A number, especially if we're looking at a lot of data on the page. Agreed? So accounting is good. You want to score points with me? Accounting. Okay? If you're doing your homework and it says put the currency format here, and you use accounting, I'm going to go, yay for you! Yay for you! Okay, good. Here we go. So $1 million. Now here's what I need to know. You said $1 million. Do you mind sharing your current age with us?
Yeah, I'm 23.
So you are 23. Oh, that is so cool. Because here's the thing, and we're going to use the age 55 to retire, right? Can anybody tell me how many years we have to invest?
30.
Exact, please. 32. So we have 32 years to invest. How much can you afford to invest?
$5.
I need you to start investing today.
Yeah, I've got $5.
You've got $5. Can you put $5 a month into your investment portfolio?
Shouldn't it go off like a percentage?
Shouldn't it be a percentage? It should, and we'll look at growing this, right? But right now, just for fun, we'll use $100. Okay? Because I can pretty much guarantee that even if you're on financial aid, you could cut $300 from your budget. You might actually have to give something up. But I'm going to show you giving something up is worthwhile. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. First of all, we need to know our monthly investment, which we said is how much? $100. Now we need to know an annual percentage rate. What do we call an annual percentage rate? APR. Can you tell me what the heck an APR is?
Annual percentage rate.
What does it mean?
The amount of interest they charge you over a year long.
It's the amount of interest charged or earned over a period of a year. Okay? So here's the thing. How much interest do you think over the lifetime? What do you think a good average interest rate? How much is my investment going to grow every year, average for 32 years? Granted, it's going to go down, it's going to go up.
Are you on high risk or low risk?
3%.
No, we're going realistic.
Realistic.
Yep.
Is it less than 1?
Put it this way. If you're my financial counselor and right now in this market, you're not making me 10%, you're fired. Okay.
Yeah.
I made 11.75% last year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Don't get that from the bank.
Well, no, you're not going to invest in a bank though. There's no growth in a bank. I think I get 1/8% from a bank.
You lose money to inflation actually in a bank.
Well, actually, when they were charging me a monthly fee, it was costing me money to put money into that bank. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Y'all are investing the 10 grand I have sitting in my savings every day. You don't want to pay me? I'll go find another bank. Okay, enough said. APR, let's use 7%. So here's what happens when we put in 7%. First of all, we don't put in 7 and convert it to a percentage because we get 700%. Now, I'd love to do 700%. That'd be great. If anybody has an investment that's currently making 700%, let me know, and I will transfer 100% of my investment into that investment. So we do 0.07, which gives us 7%. Now, listen closely. Do we ever get 7% exactly? What do we get? If we're borrowing money, what do we get? 6.99%, 7.25%. So we always want to increase the decimal places and show that in this case we're dealing with 7% exactly. Okay,
So
so
you have to take into account significant figures?
no, so just 7%. If we want to, we can make it 6.99%. Okay, we'll just make it even 7%. Now, we then need time. Now, time can come, here's where our society has come. When I first bought a car, they gave me time in years. They said, you're going to finance it for 4 years. But that confused people because you had to take the 4 years and convert it into months. So now they give it to you in months. Okay? We're all smarter than that. When we talk about time, we're going to talk about it in years because we can then convert it into months. We said we had how many years to invest? 32. You think it's going to make you sad? I don't want to make you sad. But I do want to give you the realization. So now what we need to figure out is the total amount, what's called net worth. After we invest $100 a month at 7% for 32 years. Now, before we do that, I want to figure out exactly how much you are going to put in. How much of this total net worth is how much money you actually put in. So somebody please tell me, so this is called total amount invested. How would I calculate the total amount invested? Okay, so what you're saying is this is going to equal the amount I'm invested each month times this other cell times B8 times what? Times 12. Where'd you get the 12? There's 12 months in a year, so I'm going to invest 12 times each year. Okay, now, did I just break my own rule? I used the 12.
But you're using it with the cell. So anytime you change the number in the cell, you're going to need to change that number too.
Okay.
Unless you change the cell.
Sort of. Without confusing you all, this is what we would refer to as a constant. And it's okay to use a constant. Let's figure out some other constants that we might use. How many days in a week? 7. That's a constant. If I said we're going to use pi, what's the constant number of pi?
There's a
Anyone else want to go a little? Okay, no? Okay. That's a constant. Okay. Now what we could do is we could come up here and say, you know, months in a year, and then put in 12, and then reference that cell. Agreed? But we're not going to do that. We're going to put in the constant of 12. So does this make sense to everybody? We're going to do $100 a month, every month, 12 months a year times the number of years. Let's see how much you're going to invest. You're actually putting in $38,400. However, that $38,400 is going to earn what? Interest. Folks, I'm really hoping that a lot of you are just not saying, because you're scared to get it wrong, but that you know this. Because this is your future right here. The average American, your parents, on average, have less than $50,000 saved in retirement by age 50. We're going to see if you can live off this million to retire. Okay? So here's what we do. There's a little formula called the future value formula. The future value of my money. Okay? So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to actually use the dialog box. As you learn this stuff, do not shortcut. Can I go in here and type equals FD and put in the parameters? Yes, I can. Okay? However, I still will go back and check it using this. So I'm going to come up here, going to go to more functions, and I'm going to type in future value. There's so many benefits to doing this. I'm going to find a function called future value. Well, there's one called value, converts a text string. No, here's FV, returns the future value of an investment based on periodic constant payments and a constant interest rate. Does that sound like us?
Yep.
That is us. So I'm going to say okay. And the cool thing about it is it gives me this little box that if I fill it in correctly, I shouldn't get the answer incorrect. So the rate, now, some of the things they call these things are kind of weird, but the rate is the interest rate per period. I'm investing every what? Every month. So I'm going to expect my interest to accrue every month.
But you're calculating your yearly interest.
I am not. You're going to see that I'm actually going to calculate it monthly.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So my rate is in which cell? Oh, kind of hard to see. Which cell has my rate? B what? B7. So remember, so I do this dynamically. I'm going to reference B7. Now that's my what rate? Annual. So I need to divide that by what to get my monthly interest rate? 12. Y'all are getting this. So my monthly interest rate is actually 0.5%. Okay, give or take. N per, if you notice down here, if you're like, well, what's N per? Well, N per is the total number of payment periods in the investment.
That's 12, right? You're investing once a month.
No, it's not 12. The total number. Aha, so I'm going to take my time in years times 12. I'm actually going to make 384 payments. And if we think about this, if I'm making 384 payments and we add 2 zeros because I'm investing 38,400. Everybody follow that? Holly, you follow? Are you savvy? Then we just need the payment. Now this is where it gets kind of weird because what career uses Excel like all the time, every day, every minute? Accounting. Finance, accounting, whatever, right? So the accountants got involved in this and really kind of screwed things up for all of us simple folk. okay? Because this is money, is this money coming into my account or out of my account? Be careful. It's my account, but am I taking money from my monthly and putting it out or putting it in?
You're taking it out of one account and putting it in another.
There's the answer. I'm taking it out of one, that's called a debit, and putting it into another, which is a credit. Okay? So here's what I have to do. It's just pretty simple. I'm going to put a negative in there because what I want is a positive result. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to put a negative. And how much am I going to pay each month? And what cell is that? B6. Now, if you notice these are bold, that is all I need. Okay? That's all I need. These are optional things. PV is the present value. It's the lump sum amount a series of future payments is worth now. If I'm starting this investment with $10,000 that my grandparents gave me, I'd put it in here. Then the last one is type, and type is the value representing the timing of the payment. See, because if I make a payment on a loan at the beginning of the month, the first of the month, am I charged interest for that month on that amount I paid? No. But if I pay it at the end of the month, does it accrue interest for the whole month? It does. Does anybody happen to know at what rate, so monthly, daily, yearly, your student loans accrue interest?
Probably monthly.
Probably monthly? You're shaking your head back there. What is it? You have no idea? Oh, okay.
Probably should know that, huh?
Yeah. How about if I told you it's daily? Interest is accrued daily. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Ouch. By the way, it's accrued daily on pretty much everything you buy these days. Car, house, whatever, daily. So you can figure out what it costs for you to own that house daily in interest. Okay, so here we go. How much do you think? Well, the number's actually right there. That's pretty darn cool. Just looking at the number, that's pretty darn cool. I invested $38,000, and in just 32 years, I have $142,000. That's pretty darn amazing.
Not if you need to live off that for the rest of your life.
Not if you need to live off of it. We'll talk about supplemental income in week 11. That's the dark web. Okay, moving on. So you're saying that's not enough.
I mean, unless you want to live off of top ramen.
Yeah, top
Okay.
ramen in your car.
Well, here's the cool thing. Everything is dynamic, right? So I can go up and change any of these numbers.
That'll change your outcome.
And it'll change my outcomes, yes.
So if you were to not use B6, then you'd have to go through everything to review it, right?
I'd have to go through and manually change the formula every time. Am I going to remember to do that every time? No. So suddenly my spreadsheet gets a value of what? Nothing. Matter of fact, my spreadsheet might get me fired. Okay? If you're the one in a marriage doing the finances, my wife and I do all the finances together. You know, so that everyone knows what's going on. But if you're doing this and you've been doing this for 30 years and oops, I made a mistake 30 years ago that cost us 40 grand in retirement. Somebody going to be upset? Yeah. So here we go. You said this isn't going to work. Let's see what happens if we just take the 100 and make it 200. Woo! But we're still not at that million. How about 500? Oh, we're getting close. 850? 700? Pretty close. So you have to invest $700 a month at 7% average interest over the life of the loan, which means some years you might make 1%, some years you might make 21%. I've made upwards of 28% in a year when the economy was good.
have to invest
called
more
it.
than my current paycheck right now.
There you go. And you can't do that, right?
No.
So how do we do this? How do we ever retire? No, you do. I'm going to briefly show you how you do this.
You got a huge life insurance policy on your spouse, and then
That's on recording, and that could become evidence 30 years from now when you bump off your spouse. So here we go. Watch carefully. I'm going to go find 32 years. Here's how we do it. Year one, while we're in school, we invest $50 each month. And we invest $50 for the 4 years we're in school each month. So what does that mean? It means I don't buy a video game. It means I don't get 10 coffees at Starbucks. Now you're pushing it. Give up steak? I don't know. Okay. But then here's what happened. Then I get a job. Right? Hopefully. And as I get that job, I'm now making money. Now I'm also paying off my student loans. So I'm not going to put a bunch into retirement, but suddenly I went from getting $1,300 a term to live off of to a $2,500 a month job because I have a college degree. So suddenly I went and I say, the first bill I'm going to pay, the first person you want to pay is yourself. So I'm going to bump that up to $200. And I do that for a couple years. And then because I work so hard, I got a what? I got a raise. I got $100 a month raise. So what I'm going to do is bump that up to $250 a month. And then now I have experience and some other company hires me and gives me $2,000 a month increase in pay. And I go, that's great. I'm going to buy a new car, but I'm also going to put another $1,000 into my retirement. Okay? Or let's call it $500. So now I put $500 in there, and I'm doing that for a while. You see where this is going? I don't need to go any further. I'm always paying myself first. I'm going to pay myself first before I pay my student loans. However, I'm not going to pay my student loans for 10 years. You'll see why when we do the other side of this equation. There we are. Now do you see how we finally get to it? When we hit 20, we're putting in $1,200 a month. Is that more than the $700? Yeah. It is serious adulting. Let me tell you how serious it is. Before I became an instructor, could I have bought a better house? Yes. I was making $120,000 a year. $20,000 of that was going into retirement right off the top. Why? Because I had a boss who showed me this. So see, now the unfortunate thing is y'all have no excuse. You have no excuse not to invest $50. You have no excuse not when you get a job to pay yourself first. Because as we just saw, this is not enough to retire on. Let's get back to the million. Now, I want exactly $1 million. Now, could I give you that number? We got to 700 and we got close. So I could, right, if I use some critical thinking, do this. Oh, that's not it. What if I invest 700 and what? And 1 penny. 2 pennies. 3 pennies. You see where I'm going with this, right? I can finally get to the exact number. But there's a better way.
So you should just go to the network, put $1 million in there, and it should auto-fill back.
Well, no. We didn't use this value for anything.
No, I'm talking about down in the net.
Oh, couldn't I just put $1 million in here? If I do, I'm overriding the formula. Because there's a formula being done to calculate this, that behind the scenes level. We don't want to mess with that behind the scenes level.
Or you could just create a formula that backtracks to get.
Oh, I could, but guess what? It already exists. So watch carefully. I come over here to data, Okay? I do a what-if analysis, and I do a goal seek. And now I just tell Excel, I want to change cell B10 to what exact value? 1 million. By changing what cell are we changing? B6. By changing this cell. Now watch carefully. Remember that whole billion processes per second that a computer can do? 1, 2, 3, click. Done. 8 cents. By the way, it's probably not 8 cents. But 8 cents is close enough for us. Okay? Now it's time for me to burst that bubble again, because you have $1 million. Now, what happens if I start drawing from that? Do I want to live off that million? Right, because here's the thing. If I take the $1 million and, okay, I like 10%. Oop, accounting. And I just take 10% out a year. How many years can I live in retirement? Exactly. So that's not so good, right? Anybody want to, 10 years and then Harry Carey, right? Done. And then how much do you leave for your kids?
0. You're homeless.
Yeah, wouldn't it be, well, you're also dead, by the way, but anyway. Wouldn't it be great if we could leave all of the money so that our kids who are going to have even a harder time could at least start? What?
Struggle builds character.
Yeah.
They'll be fine.
Oh, they'll be fine. Okay. That's what I've told my mom and dad. I've invested my own money. I'm doing pretty good. Spend it while you got it. Which is why they were on a 12-day cruise in Croatia and Italy and all that. Okay, I'm jealous. Anyway, moving on. So let's go back to this number. We're going to take that 100,000 though, and we're going to look at what that really costs. So let's say we could take that 100,000, and each year, by moving our investments into conservative investments, we can make 6%. How much do I get to live off of each year? How do I calculate that? Well, that's an APR, isn't it? It's the annual percentage rate. So I take equals the $1 million I have that's earning 6% times the 6%, and I suddenly have $60,000 a year to live off of. Anybody know what the biggest problem with the United States is right now? We have what? Starts with a D, debt. We have a thing called the national debt. Somebody please look up what the current national debt is.
Like $70 trillion or something.
Something like that.
I don't want to. It's depressing.
Eventually, we got to start paying that back, right?
No.
So
Just print more money.
there you go. Great. You need to go into politics, sir, and I will not vote for you. Okay. So 60 grand a year. However, of that 60 grand, when you retire, do you still have to pay taxes? All right. Let me make this bigger. You rob a bank. I love that.
23% tax.
Yeah. So here's the thing. When you retire, when you all retire, you're probably looking at a 35% tax bill. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 0.35. Okay, we're going to turn this into a percent. My son was complaining the other day. He's now working a regular job where he's actually seeing taxes come out. He's like, what the heck's this Social Security, Dad? What am I paying into? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so 35%. So right off the bat, we're going to take 35% of our 60,000, and that goes to taxes, right? So 35%. So there's our taxes. So what we then do is we take our gross income minus our taxes, and now we have $39,000 to live off of. We'll take that to 12 months. So we'll take our $39,000, we'll divide it by 12 months, and basically we have $3,250 to live off of. It's really not that bad, is it?
Unless you live in bed, it's pretty good.
Unless you live in bed. It's actually pretty decent if you don't want a new car to drive in retirement. You don't want an RV to tour around the country and see the grandkids in. You don't want to take a vacation,
So you just want to sit in a hole?
and you don't have a house payment. What did a loaf of bread cost your parents when they were your age?
10 cents or something like that?
Yeah, a nickel, 10 cents.
Yeah, that stuff was way more valuable back then than it is now. Like the ratio of cost of living and everything is just disgusting.
Exactly. And when I was in Hawaii, a loaf of bread was $3.75.
Yeah. Thing of milk was like $12.
So here's the thing.
Texas, you can get for 99 cents?
Can you live off this? Yes. But wouldn't you like to live better? Okay.
And then you have to think about like, a little better health care.
At the street?
Thank you, Holly. No. Maybe that's the annual national debt, or maybe we're increasing the national debt by.
That much each year.
Yeah, but I think the national debt's closer to 70 trillion.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah. So, which is, by the way, million, billion, trillion. Okay. So, $3,200. You see where I'm going with this? But the amazing thing in all of this is this right here, which is the compounding. This is all I invested. And my interest earned what? Because I never touched the interest until I retired, my interest earned interest. Right? My interest earned interest. That's the cool part of this.